Here.
It's wonderful to see you again. It's been a few years since we've seen you.
I love it. I love it.
We knew Aleya in Telluride as she was just beginning her healing work. And let's start right there. When Karen says that you're a healer, do you deal with sick people, or do you deal with people that are, some are sick, but more often it's people who are ready to grow to another level?
I would say that at this point in time in my practice, I work with anybody that wants to shift their consciousness. And I actually started off being a healer when I was 6. I was laying on of hands, didn't know what I was doing, and then I ended up going to boarding school, and people would come to me for their sprained ankle, for their broken heart, and I somehow had this like oozing healing vibe coming from me. And with that, I ended up going to massage school while I was going to college. And I started my private practice as a massage therapist my senior year in college. And after a year of being in private practice of just doing massage, I thought I need more. And then I ended up going and becoming a master of Oriental Medicine. So I got my master's in Oriental Medicine in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And then I moved to Telluride and I opened up the healing company and started a private practice as an acupuncturist. And then in 2001, I actually had an enlightenment experience where my awareness of the other dimensions increased, my capacity to feel other people's feelings, to hear guides, to hear what was truly being asked for. And then I started using sound as a healing modality, as well as working with other dimensions to help people shift their consciousness.
Whoa!
We've been the benefactors of that in so many places, so we're really grateful for that, and we're so happy to be able to share your work with other people.
The subject of sound keeps coming back on this tour that we're on. Tell me about sound healing.
I think of everybody as a sound healer. We are all sound healers, whether we are listening to music in the car or we are humming to ourselves as we're walking around in our homes. And I think people don't realize the impact of sound, because thoughts are a sound, words are sound. And so if we start to tune into this capacity to be our own sound healers, or to use music, or to use other sound healers as a modality of moving into higher states of consciousness, healing illness, disease, even fear of disease, you actually have the capacity to bring in particular sounds that can dissolve the thoughts and the fear of disease, because everything starts way out in our energetic fields. We think it, we feel it before it manifests in the physical realm. And sound is one of the fastest vibrations to help shift the consciousness in the energy fields, which then shifts the vibrations in the physical human form.
Wow. So any kind of sound, which is basically a vibration, is going to have some kind of effect on anybody in the zone.
Definitely. Any kind of sound. When I think about teenagers that are rocking out in their cars to incredible heavy metal and bass is just being felt from blocks away, what are they trying to do with that music? They're actually trying to get grounded. They are using this really intense, angry music to create an appropriate boundary for them and get their power and their control before they move into the world as an adult. And so whether it's we like the kind of music people are using, the teenager with the heavy metal or the person who prefers classical, they are gravitating towards that music as a way to help them move into a particular vibration that their soul's intending.
Wow. So I'm fascinated more and more, and I don't even understand this. Tell us about Om.
Om. When I think about Om, and there are lots of texts that talk about the specific meanings to different sounds, but when I personally feel into the sound of Om, I feel opening in the base chakra. So that's all about getting really grounded. And then if you actually listen to the very back end of the Om, it has this ah vibration, and ah is the sound of the heart. So it's this grounded heart. We are home in the heart. We are grounded in the heart. And you've got this base chakra, lower energy centers opening, as well as the heart chakra opening when we do that sound of Om.
We're going real fast here today.
Should I slow it down?
No. This is just perfect, because the next question is, what we're hearing when we interview people is something we've never heard before, but people who are big deal scientists, people who are big deal intellectuals, somehow or another are making the journey from to the mind or the intellect to the heart. and they're not even aware, that they're not fully aware that it's happening, but they know that something is happening because they've shifted their focus. Is this part of a big shift that's going on right now?
I do think that the earth is actually changing her song just a little bit. And she is a conscious being from my perspective, and she is going through all of the steps of enlightenment, but currently in the form of a planet. She's going from 2nd grade to 3rd grade. So we are literally on an ascended master. This being, Earth, Gaia, Terra, whatever word you want to give her, has gone through all of the steps of enlightenment in a different form, 33,000 to be exact. And then she decided, I'm going to be a planet, and I'm going to go through every single one of those steps and become an ascended master, but now holding the vibration of a planet. And as a planet, she then opens herself up at different points in her evolution to assist people in literally journeying with her at that point in the evolutionary process. So right now, Earth is going from 2nd grade to 3rd grade. Typically, a 2nd grader hasn't mastered self-love. They haven't mastered self-respect. So it's going to be virtually impossible for them to be loving and respectful of another being, i.e. we see humans having a really hard time loving and respecting the planet. All we have to do is look at our environment. But Earth is actually shifting into a place of greater degrees of self-love as an ascended master, again, going through all of the steps of evolution. And so we're starting to hear a different sound coming from her as she evolves, and everyone on her is literally getting the exact same thing. Their soul consciousness is shifting as they are just sitting on their couch and sucking down their beer.
Is this part of the thing that's going on where the energy is actually coming from someplace else in the galaxy and it's flooding us right now?
I think of the planet as this literal sphere traveling through the universe, and it's picking up different vibrations. And when I watch Earth and what she's traveling through, she actually, October 28th, 2011, entered into a new quadrant in the universe, very, very different. And these beings that are in this new quadrant in the universe have this incredible vibration of unconditional love. So we have billions of beings holding unconditional love, a completely different consciousness than the neighborhood we just moved from. And they are showering the planet with these higher vibrations, and therefore everybody on the planet is starting to feel this frequency.
So 2 weeks ago, Nature magazine said that we are right now at a tipping point on the earth, about the earth, that if we don't take steps to correct what we've done, we're literally going to go over the edge. Where does that fit into all of what you just said?
Could the edge be self-love? So if we're we're going to shift. It's the flip it. I think of it as beings do the opposite of that which they are intending on mastering, until they reach a certain level of evolution, and they then begin to practice that which they intend to master. So I would call it, we are at the flip it point, where we've been in self-hatred in order to master self-love. We have been in a place of not respecting ourselves in order to respect ourselves. And humanity and Earth, but more importantly Earth, because then anybody on her is going to literally flip into this tipping point, as the Nature magazine spoke, and a lot of other people are speaking about it, and we are going to start practicing that which we intend to master instead of the opposite.
So one of the things that's happening is that there are a lot of young children coming on the planet right now. Now, one of the things that Chuck had an aunt who lived to be 100. We interviewed her just 3 months before she made her transition, and she was this amazing soul, just pure love and light. And she said it was the most difficult time that she had known in her life just before she made her transition. She said she'd never seen the earth be like it was or people behave like they were behaving. But she had hope that that was going to change because these other little souls would not be coming on the planet in such full force, and so many of them, if it were not getting ready to get better.
Darkest hour is before the dawn.
Exactly.
And we're in it.
Yeah.
We are in the darkest hour. And actually, I was swimming with dolphins in Bimini about 3 weeks ago, and it was fabulous. And in that time, I would take little moments to just connect in with guides, to talk to the dolphins. And at one point they said, we are an hour before we see the light of the sunrise on the horizon. So if you wake up around, depending on where you are in the world, and depending on the season, but they were sort of saying to me 4 a.m. because right around 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning is when the sun starts to, the light starts to be seen in the horizon. And so if we energetically and consciously know that we are an hour before we even start to see the sunrise, that's where we are at this point in time. Then 3 years from now, we'll be at around 5:30 in the morning, i.e. just seeing the light starting to come onto the horizon. And then about 7 years from now, we'll be seeing that sun starting to peek its little tendrils into the horizon. Wow. So if we think about it from that perspective, that's where we are in our consciousness. We're not going back. We never go back in our evolutionary process.
So all of a sudden I'm hearing all positive stuff from you.
I think it's completely positive. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. One doesn't make a very long trip for a bad movie.
Well, that's just what my aunt was saying, that these children were not going to come here if it was a bad prognosis.
Absolutely not. No. And I think that a lot of the fear that's coming up around the 2012 and the end of the Mayan calendar, and all of the pollution and the war and the environment and global warming, what's really getting triggered is in the Atlantean and the Lemurian times, when there was sort of this end of a cycle, everything was destroyed. But you only have to do that a few times, and then you learn how to make a cycle shift without complete and total absolute destruction. And so we are all energetically feeling the shift in a cycle. And the only thing that we have at a biological, or even for some people, a soul reference point, is complete and total destruction when that last cycle ended. So everybody's sort of replaying all of their Atlantean, Lemurian memories of when there was total destruction on a cycle change. And I actually see this cycle happening very differently. Yes, it's being very challenging, but it's more of an emotional destruction. Literally all of these like old energetic, I call them grids, are coming down. We're no longer being able to reference point ourselves externally. We aren't supported by money and relationships and what people think of us anymore. It doesn't do anything for us. Our passion is literally having to be reinvented because it's not the outer that's juicing us anymore. It's all going inside. And so the outer dissolves and the inner comes online. And that's what I think of as this cycle shift, is it's flipping from the outer to the inner.
So there's this awareness that's going on that I see it as things when somebody says to me, you know, all of a sudden I'm being bombarded by all this negative stuff. I'm going, all it's doing is coming up to be recognized so it can be released. Because it's been hidden away somewhere inside of you. Mm-hmm. And now it's coming up so you can see it. And then when you see it, you can recognize it and get rid of it and release it.
Exactly. And you get to ask the question, okay, so if I have been doing the opposite of that which I've been intending on mastering, that means that I'm now at a point in my evolution where I get to flip it and do that which I do intend to master. Right. So if the person keeps having these situations of no one is supporting them, everyone is not showing up for them, where are they not showing up for themselves? And so, great, now we get to start showing up internally for our own self, supporting our own selves deep inside, and then our body starts supporting us, our finances start supporting us, instead of us expecting it to be met externally when we're not even meeting it internally.
So when we start to recognize that we are doing something that's counterproductive, or at least in the opposite of what we're intending, that's like the signal.
Yeah, that's like clap your hands.
Okay, you're ready to go.
Yeah, clap your hands and take a look at the opposite. It's like, oh, I'm challenged. Okay, why? Dive into that challenge. What is the emotion? What is the grittiest, ickiest, deepest core part of whatever's going on for you? And then ask yourself, what's the solution? And realize that your soul has gotten to a certain point where you are courageous enough to fully immerse yourself in the most gnarly behavior to get to your flipping point. So when I see somebody who's in self-hatred, or I see somebody that's not supporting themselves, or I see somebody that's like going bankrupt and they're in total lack, I'm going to hold the safest, the most loving space for them to be in whatever they're in. Instead of trying to take all of the lack away from them, they're going to have to go collect more. I call them like self-hatred chips, okay, or lack chips. You need to go collect that. I'm going to hold a safe and loving space for you to be in this vibration. And I actually have like what I call a higher dimensional campaign happening in the higher realms. It's much easier to rally angels than humans. And I'm inviting them all to hold vigil for all of the people that are still choosing to use war as a mechanism for their growth and evolution. So if we've got a huge angelic realm holding vigil for all the people that need to be in war and saying, okay, you need to be in war, go for it. We're holding a safe and loving space for you. Instantaneously, at an energetic level, all of the people that are in a state of war feel that safe, loving space. They connect to some higher part of themselves and they start bringing in the solution, i.e., the opposite, the solution. Love, self-love.
And so this is really happening right now.
We are in it. We are in the thick of it. Yeah, we're an hour before the hue happens on the horizon.
Did you, as you were going through the process of the last several years that you've gone through, were you aware that something was coming and that you knew it was something big, but we weren't there yet?
Yeah, and I think we're in the middle of it, and whenever you're in the middle of something, it's really hard to get a reference point. It's almost like you're literally in the middle of a storm and you don't know even what direction the storm is coming from or when you're even going to pop out on the other side. But fortunately, my gift is watching what I call the energetic weather. And I will take my awareness 50 to 100,000 feet above the planet, and I will feel into what is the energetic weather that's coming in from above, and how is that going to affect the consciousness of the people on the planet. And so I can actually teleport myself at an energetic level forward in time and see what it is we're going to be hitting 3 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and then start calibrating my own consciousness so I'm ready to receive that higher vibrational frequency. And then share the tools to help other people do the same.
So based on that, what you're really saying is in about 3 years, it's going to be clear that we've made some kind of a transition.
We're going to start to see clearly. And that's really hard for people who want that very instantaneous quick fix. You mean it's not going to be better tomorrow? I wanted it yesterday. And so I actually think that people might not feel a whole lot of clarity for another 3 years, and then they're going to start seeing the light, and then all of the things that they've been hearing for years and years are going to start clicking. And that's happening for some people. But I think that the masses, 7 years from now, are going to start to see that light as it comes onto the planet. So for those of us that have a different sight or a different sense, we're still seeing that wave. There's that old story that they talked about in the movie, it's not The Shift, it's The Secret. And how the Native American shaman was standing on the beach and he could see the ships, but none of his people could. Mm-hmm. And even before he could see the ship, he could feel the ship, but his eyes weren't yet trained. And so there are a lot of people that are very energetically sensitive, they're psychic, they're telepathic, they're empathic, and they are literally standing on the beach going, there's something out there. But their eyes yet can't see the ship, but they know. And then we'll be at the place where, oh, we're seeing the ship, and now we have to sort of share with all the other people, hey, there's a ship out there. And, it could be a UFO. People are starting to see more UFOs. And what I really think is happening is that we are entering into what I call multidimensional awareness, where we are starting to become more aware of this multidimensional reality that we exist in, that there are other beings in this same time-space continuum, and we just haven't trained our eyes or our energetic sense to feel them. And those veils are coming down. That awareness is increasing. And, if you wanted to make a lot of money, I suppose you could invest in the pharmaceutical drug companies for antipsychotics, because a lot of people are going to think that they're completely and totally psychotic as they see beings standing next to them and hearing voices. And they're actually just tapping into a multidimensional reality that we're already existing in.
Yeah, and this has been on the horizon for a while.
2,000 years.
But in our experience, that the whole concept of a multidimensional universe started about 3 years ago. And I went back to what Jodie Foster was experimenting in that movie Contact. Mm-hmm. And the message of that movie was, you can go into other dimensions, but you have to have all that gear. And you have to have all that support. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that you can walk to the next dimension by simply moving your mind.
Yep.
But we don't know. That's hard for us. That's very hard for any of us.
Because this is being, and we're used to doing.
Yeah.
That's that external that's falling away, and we're having to go internal to find the soothing, the comfort, the connection, the safety. So it's a huge shift in the paradigm, in the consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, and we watched The Matrix, part of The Matrix the other night, and this little girl was telling Neo that you can't bend spoons, but you can bend your mind.
Right.
And all of a sudden you see a different kind of reality. Mm-hmm. And I suspect you're probably right. The psychotropic drugs are going to be very in use as people can't get this.
For a short period of time. But anything that we experience energetically doesn't get addressed with aspirin or antipsychotics. So I remember having like an energetic headache, and I took 3 Advil. Didn't touch it. As soon as I addressed the energetic component of the headache, boom, within 30 seconds it was gone. And so when we're dealing with something that's very energetic or empathic, i.e. I'm feeling the headache of another person, or I'm feeling the heartache of another person, or the thoughts of another person, the pharmaceutical drugs, unfortunately I'm not a doctor and I can't like prescribe or say you should or shouldn't take it, but they typically, from my own personal experience, don't touch it.
Yeah, I have literally been sitting, it's a funny story actually. I was in a movie theater one day, and I just, like I always do before I go into a movie, I go into the restroom, then I go in and I sit down. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, all of a sudden, I think I need to go to the restroom again. And I just went, how could I possibly need to go? It wasn't 5 minutes, and the guy across the aisle from me, down a couple of rows, got up and left, and then he came back, and I was just fine. It was like
empathic pee.
Empathic, and a lot of times, I mean, we those of us who are really, really empathic with people, we sense things that are going on, and they don't belong to us, and a lot of people don't understand that it's not theirs.
Right.
That it really is not theirs, and they've got to learn how to discern what really belongs to them to deal with, and whether it belongs to somebody else, because we can't take someone else's lesson away from them.
No, it'd be like trying to breathe somebody's breath. You can't do it. Yeah.
Everybody has to have the opportunity to experience their own lessons.
Yeah, and do it in their own unique way. And I actually developed an empathic sensitivity deck. So I have this deck that you can pull out when you're feeling different stuff and go, okay, where is this coming from? There's like galactic influence, mass consciousness, ancestors, parents, partners, friends, family, children. And so I'm finishing that book at this time, and it's a really great tool for people that are conscious of their empathic sensitivity, but actually everyone is empathically sensitive. They just get hammered with so many other people's energies, emotions, thoughts, ancestors, usually by the age of 10 to 15 years old. We are chocker block full of empathic sensitivity, and now we're trying to work on everybody else's stuff instead of our own. So the moment overwhelm comes up, that's the indicator that you're already chocker block full of other people's stuff that's not even your own. And the way to shift it is to energetically engage. It's a simple request. You ask your higher self to work with your energetic fields to locate that empathic sensitivity, to release it. Anytime we're empathically sensitive, it's the indicator that our soul has information for the other person. They're not asking us to carry their stuff. They're asking for data. And they're saying, hey, look, this is my issue. You've got some data on that. So we want to hand the issue back along with the information, and then model the solution in our fields, on ourselves, for ourselves. And that clears the empathic sensitivity. And then you can take it one step further and go to compassion, which is the reason we are empathically sensitive, is to teach us how to be compassionate. I just walked a mile in another person's shoes.
I noticed you were using some computer imagery just there. Is the computer image and the dynamics of computers, is that a good way to help people understand what's going on?
I think so. I mean, cell phones are helping us increase our telepathic capacities. They're just a crutch right now.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. When I walk around town and I see everybody looking at their cell phones and like texting, and it's a little bit of an obsessive compulsive disorder from my perspective. Yeah. And instead of looking at it from a negative perspective of like, all these people texting and cell phoning, they can't even like let go of it. They're actually getting addicted to connection. Now, right now, it's an external connection, but what's truly being asked for is an internal connection. Now, that might take 100 years, it might take 3,000 years, whatever, it doesn't really matter. People are on the wave of craving more connection. They think that texting is going to give it to them, but eventually texting isn't, and so they're going to have to start looking internal to find that connection. Same thing with computers. It's like we're connecting to our higher self, our hard drive. Our hard drive is our higher self. And so when I double click on my hard drive, i.e. my higher self, and I ask my energetic fields to activate a particular program or application, I just had access to a huge amount of resources that my little mini me mind might not have access to here in the physical realm.
So that's a great way for people to understand this.
Yeah, click on your super self, hard drive, higher self, whatever words you want to call it, and use the energy fields to shift the consciousness. And there's lots of different modalities that people use to help shift consciousness, the Buddhism, TM, tons of different forms of meditation. But for me, I'm kind of a junkie about efficiency, and I want it quick, I want it fast, and I want it now because we've got a lot of work to do. And I've kind of figured out a formula that works for me, and then I teach other people to do it, and some people resonate with it, some people don't. But it's as basic as ask the higher self to work with the energetic fields, to do whatever it is you're wanting to do to your own energy fields, and then it shifts it. So we're literally using our energy fields to shift our consciousness instead of trying to get our mind to do it, or positive affirmations, or mudras. Those are all supportive, but if we shift it in the energetic fields, then it shows up in the mind, the emotions, and the physical body.
Have you just described your entire process?
Pretty much, yeah.
So if
Whole kit and caboodle.
so if somebody walks in and sees this, and they hear this, and they go like this.
And they watch it like 35 times, and
Yeah.
then they get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what can somebody do if they just heard this and they want to get quick and
Right.
fast? What do they do?
well, I'm going to back up just a little bit. There's 3 things that affect our reality. We have a soul essence that resides in the physical human form. We have a physical body that we're currently in for a time. And then what I call the energy consciousness that surrounds us. So that could be guides. I call it the team. So you've got these beings that are in this other dimensional reality. They're affecting you. You might even have your ancestors standing next to you. And that can affect your reality. We're all empathic no matter what dimension we're experiencing. So whenever we do what I call an energetic protocol, and many thousands of years ago, these energetic protocols were called full and complete prayers. But the prayers have gotten distorted. And the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, higher self, body's higher self, and energy consciousness, i.e. team, work with the energetic fields and the guides to energetically locate any responsibility for transforming any of my ancestors' issues, karma, lessons, return it to them, back to their right and perfect place, along with all relevant and appropriate information. And then I invite my higher self, my body's higher self, and my team to bring in the energetic solution and model the wisdom and the mastery for them. So that's like a very basic, simple, energetic protocol prayer that has the capacity to shift the energetic fields. When the energy fields shift, the mind, the emotions, and the body shifts. But we have to get those 3. Higher self, and I say it the body, Deva's higher self, because I think of our body as actually a nature spirit that we're residing in, and it has its very own unique consciousness. Me as a soul, I have no idea of how to balance my blood chemistry, but my body does. And there's been some really interesting research with multiple personality disorders, where there'll be an individual that is expressing themselves in the physical body, and then Georgia walks in to the body and has a completely different personality and isn't diabetic and doesn't need glasses. That's a different soul that just entered the body, and the body then took on the imprint of that soul, and is now creating the experience that that soul needs for its growth and its evolution. And then another soul comes in, kicks the other one out, so that multiple personality from a very energetic woo-woo perspective is literally different souls occupying the body, and whatever soul is in the body imprints the body within 30 seconds.
So a person that has a multi-personality...
And I can't even use that word multiple personality disorder because that's a psychology term, but
when it's happening like that, these souls can come in and out real fast or over short periods of time.
they're not fully anchored.
So a person that's experiencing this has got to be a little confused.
Very, very confused. And a lot of the times with people that have possession or multiple personality, It's that their soul is kind of resisting the experience of being in the physical human form. So the analogy would be somebody who's riding a horse and isn't too psyched about riding the horse. But they might be holding on to the saddle just a little bit and getting sort of thrashed on the back of the horse, and somebody else comes and sits on the saddle. So you've got two people on the horse saddle, i.e. two people in the body, or three people in the body, or five people in the body. That's going to be a very confused horsey. And so when I think about being in the physical human form, we want to get really snuggled up on that saddle. No one else gets in. We have open lines of communication going back and forth in the energy centers, the chakra centers that run between the divine line of the body and the divine line of the soul. So a lot of ancient texts and mystics look at this big, huge white column of light that's happening in the physical human form. But when I look at that really closely, because I like to pay attention to detail, I actually see two lines of light, one that belongs to the soul residing in the form, and then the other belongs to the nature spirit that is actually the physical body, and that runs through the spine. So you've got these two divine lines, and then all of those lines of communication between those two divine lines that run through the entire spine create those energy centers and our chakras and blockages in the chakras and programming of the central nervous system.
What could they do to get more grounded in these three lower levels? How do you do that?
There's two different ways, and the very first way, the easiest one, is to simply imagine your higher self, that you actually have a higher dimensional aspect of you. For kids, I call it their super self. Just use your imagination. And then you are simply, with your mind, making a request that your higher self energetically locate your divine line that runs down the front of the spine. So I'm just asking my higher self to energetically locate my divine line that runs on the front of the spine using the energetic fields. And when we simply speak about that, we can actually feel that subtle energy starting to shift. And then we can ask the higher self to work with the energetic fields, the guides, to bring all of our anchors, all of our orientation points, all of our reference points back to the divine line. When my head does that, it's energy moving. And now our higher self, we're just like hanging, sitting on like a bump on a log, and I'm letting my higher self do the work. I don't know how to do this. My higher self does. It's the dimensional aspect of me. And so I'm just sort of, my imagination, inviting my higher self to work with my energy fields, to bring all of my anchors, all of my orientation points back to this divine line that flows down the front of my spine. And if we slow ourselves down enough, we can actually feel our energy fields, that subtle energy shifting in our body. And then we can assist it by taking a deep breath in and literally breathing into that divine line that flows down the front of the spine. Suck yourself into your tube. And then with the exhale, push the energy down that divine line, out the base chakra, all the way down into the heart of earth. From the heart of earth, run that divine line all the way back up to the heart of source. And from the heart of source, come back down through the top of the head. So you are literally breathing your divine cosmic loop. You're also asking your energy self to bring all of your awareness into your divine line. You're using your imagination to hold the space and the vigil for some part of you to energetically do this.
It's like the tube that runs from the top of your head, like where a baby's soft spot is.
Yep.
Straight down the spine.
Exactly. And most people think of that tube, and they don't see that it actually, we've got this tube of the physical human body that runs through the spine. That's what most people see. But they don't see the soul essence, rider on the horsey divine line going down the top, through the top of the crown, and then down the front of the spine. Front of the spine. So we've got one that runs through the spine and one that runs down the front of the spine.
That's the nervous system, or so to speak.
Right.
Okay.
So here we sit in this beautiful apartment in San Francisco listening to the fire engines go by, and we're relaxed and we're comfortable and we're doing our best to understand what you're saying. But at the same time, there are people who could be listening to this, or there are just people right now all around us who are going through these kinds of things, and the only thing that they can summon is fear. How do you work with people in fear? How do we get rid of fear? It's a blockage. It's the wall.
The very first component is to realize you're in fear. That's step one. Step two, accept it. Anytime we want to change something, we have to accept whatever we're in. Because if we're constantly trying to change something, we're resisting it, and that which we resist persists. So step one, what are you in? Fear, anger, hatred, lack, whatever it is. Okay? Acknowledge that, just consciously. That's simple. Step two, I am now going to let it be okay. And that's the hard part. And when you allow yourself to accept whatever it is you're in, and you just sit there, I'm choosing this. The moment we start to choose whatever it is we're in, we now move into power. But if we're constantly resisting it, we stay a victim. We don't have any power. So if I am choosing now to be in fear, to be in anger, to be in hatred, to be in rejection, lack, abandonment, whatever it is, I choose this. Some part of me is choosing it because there's some lesson here. I have the capacity to grow through this and flip it. But first I have to accept it. And then I have to choose it. And then as soon as that acceptance and that choosing comes into play, I energetically, unconsciously start to connect with some higher power, i.e. higher self, hard drive, that has the solution. What's the opposite of fear? Trust. What's the opposite of hatred? Love. And then we simply make a little prayer, bring in the solution. I want to flip it. I've gotten to a point in my journey where I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. And some other part of you, if you have that desire to do something else, has the solution. Somebody has the solution. The Ascended Masters, the person at the grocery store, they have it energetically, and you can start being open to receive that solution and start practicing a different vibration and ask for healing in dream time. Some part of you in the future is out of this energy. One day you're going to be an Ascended Master. Go to wave a little red flag to yourself and as Ascended Master to come and help you right now. That keeps you in power. So those are some really basic, simple steps of how to work with fear, whatever challenging emotion is coming up, in a very basic, simple way, where you don't have to have the energetic lingo, but it's really as simple as double click, hard drive, activate solution, download. We know that language.
Yeah.
We do.
So part of what you're saying is that there are no problems that don't have solutions
Right.
close by.
Right. Although the majority of problems that we are immersed in, the solution does not reside in the dimension of
where we are.
So that's why we actually need to invite some other part of us or beings that hold a higher vibrational consciousness in some other dimension. Einstein spoke of this, where you literally have to access a different plane to bring in the solution. And so all I'm saying is that everybody has a higher self, no matter how unevolved an individual is. They've got a super self. They've got a hard drive. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be breathing. It wouldn't happen. And so when we allow ourselves to tap into that other energetic aspect of ourselves and start bringing in the solutions, we just got the Ferrari in the garage that we didn't even know we had.
So the really good gift here is that you do this work and people can contact you and you can help them with it.
Well, I bring in, I know it's a lot to take in a very short period of time,
Sure.
what I've shared today, but what I do is I record little 5 to 7 minute meditations and I deliver it to people via email every weekday. And I make it affordable, so it's $10 a month. It's like you get 20 meditations. You just listen to 2 of those, it's worth it. And so there are these little energetic protocols with sound healing, a little bit of music in the background, and it speaks about using the energy fields to shift your consciousness. And the lovely thing is that you don't actually have to listen to it. Your energy fields are listening. And I have a cute little story. I was in Bimini, and there was a 8-year-old boy there, and he has listened to some of my stuff, and I do these tall cups of consciousness, and they're hour-long energy balancing sessions for people. And I offered to do a meditation when we were in Bimini for a group of people. And I actually asked him to share with people how he listens to what I do. And he kind of leaned up on his elbow and he goes, okay, you just don't listen. You can't listen to the words. It works better that way. And I was like, perfect. He gets it. He's 8. You know, we don't have to be a genius to get it. Some other part of us is. And so with people that listen to what I'm speaking about, it's actually best if their mind doesn't listen, that just their energy fields do. And so you play it really, really quietly. You can hardly even hear it in the background, and your energy fields start to shift and you start to move into a higher state of consciousness. And it's you doing it to you. It's not me doing it. I'm just sending you data.
So we want to be sure and tell our viewers what your website is so they can go and take advantage of that wonderful gift.
Yes, it is www.aleya, ALEYADAO.com.
AleyaDao.com.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And people can get a free week of the Daily Cups of Consciousness, or do a tall cup of consciousness, an hour-long energy balancing session. And just start getting the tools. Like, this doesn't belong to me. This is something that everybody can use when you're going to the grocery store. Higher self, remember all of the things I have to get here. Download that to me, so you don't walk out of the grocery store and you've forgotten what you went to the grocery store for.
So there are other parts of ourselves, or other dimensions that our other selves are in, that can do the heavy lifting for us.
Totally. Exactly. You just summed up the entire hour.
And all we have to do is let go.
Let go and request.
Let
Yeah.
go and request.
So if I keep asking the gas station attendant for a burger, it's going to take a while. If I ask the waiter for the burger, that'll happen faster. So again, the higher self does the heavy lifting, but I have to ask the higher self, the body Davis higher self, and the team to work with the energy fields to do whatever it is I'm intending.
It's wonderful. Karen?
So when you do you do private sessions with people. You can do a private session over the telephone with them. You don't have to be physically in the same
No.
place, because
Yeah.
energy is
Energy is energy, yeah. And actually 80% of the people that I work with is over the phone. And sometimes I actually think it works better that way, because people are in their own quiet space and they will actually show me more than if they come in for a session.
Interesting. But it's such a joy to be able to be with you personally.
That's fun too. But the question is, you know, is it just like, let's just get the work done? You know, I mean,
yes.
that's great and fun, but usually I'm aiming for results, and yeah.
You're efficient.
Yes, that's definitely, yeah. Efficient and clean are the two pieces that I really like to embody.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, it shows.
Thank you.
It shows all over. So, one last time, what's the one thing you could tell our viewer that they could do right now while they're watching this video that would improve their life experience?
I would say to realize that you are the only person that is responsible for seeing your essence. And if you see your essence, you then have the capacity to see other people's essence, but that's not your job. And so if you just look in the mirror and you look at that little light that's coming out of your eyes and realize that that light is exquisite, it is beautiful, it is whole, and it is the only thing you need to love. It's the only thing you need to see. Your life changes.
Karen?
What more could be said? That's perfect. Thank you.
It's been an honor to be with you today.
It's been an honor to have you. It's just been lovely to get to see you again and spend this time with you and to share you with our viewers.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a great treat. Bless you.
Thank you, Chuck. Blessings.
Bless you.